Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Today we got a lot of movie news to talk about, such as Spider-Man 4, an animated Cat in the Hat film, God of War, and even Final Destination, and so much more. Before we get there though, I would love for you guys to like and subscribe to the channel so that you guys can see more of these videos. Next week, we got CinemaCon, which is basically the week where a bunch of movie companies release trailers as well as more information about their films. So we could be getting a bunch of Spider-Man 4 news as well as even other trailers that we don't even know about for movies that we might love. So there's a lot going on next week. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of that stuff. I'll be posting a video next week about everything or multiple videos about everything depending on how much new stuff we get. But without further ado, let's get into the movie news. So starting out today, we're going to be talking about trailers. Now, there's been a bunch of trailers released like Final Destination that dropped today as I'm filming this, as well as Happy Gilmore and so much more. However, I'm going to use some trailers that aren't well known so that I can maybe put some new movies on your radar. So if you're interested in any of these, go actually watch the full trailers. I'm going to give you the premises as well as kind of my general thoughts on them. Some of them I have not watched just because I don't want to have any spoilers when I go to see the film because the first trailer gave a lot away. So I'm going to tell you what I kind of recommend as well as some things that I enjoyed about each trailer. Alright, so beginning the trailer talk, the first one we actually got to see this past week was actually Happy Gilmore 2. Now, I went into this trailer really excited to see what they did. This does release on Netflix on July 25th, and when I watched it, I was actually kind of let down. Now, that's not to say that the movie itself looks bad. It actually looks somewhat okay. However, the Happy Gilmore I remember is more childlike, and Adam Sandler in this seems like he just pulled out from bed and then walked into set and said, all right, let me just say a couple lines and then that's it. He doesn't seem like he's acting like the Happy Gilmore character that we all know and love. He just kind of seems like himself grown up. And I understand that time has passed, so the character itself would have grown up. However, I feel like it's just too much of a drastic change. Now, maybe that'll switch up in the movie itself, but I was kind of disappointed with this trailer just because it doesn't seem or feel like the actual Happy Gilmore that we all know and that we all care about. Now, there are some interesting plot points where Happy Gilmore has stopped playing golf and that he is going to be brought in back to playing in this tournament. And I think some of that is kind of cliche, but I am excited to see this one no matter what. It is Happy Gilmore, so if it's bad, it's bad. But for the most part, I was actually somewhat entertained. It doesn't feel to me that Happy Gilmore is actually Happy Gilmore. It just seems like Happy Gilmore is Adam Sandler, and that's what we're getting. Another movie trailer that we actually got this past week was actually the John Wick story, A Ballerina. And honestly, when they first announced this film, I was very sad that they were doing this just because the Continental, the spinoff show on Peacock, I believe, was not good. And so with them doing another spinoff, I was like, just keep it John Wick, just keep it the main story, and we're still getting the ballerina. Now, I will say, early test screenings for this film were awful. So what they ended up doing is reshooting a bunch of the action scenes as well as some of the story scenes, and they brought in the original team for the John Wick films to actually redo all of that. And so I'm super interested to see if the movie now works way better than what it actually was told to be in the beginning. I heard, for the most part, that it is spiced up more. I don't think it'll be as to the standard as the John Wick films, but I do think it'll be interesting, and it'll be definitely interesting to me to see John Wick as somewhat as an antagonist, because if you watch the new trailer, John Wick is going against her. So hopefully it'll show us John Wick in a different light than what we normally would have seen him as, and maybe put him as the villain, not the main villain, but a villain to this story. And I'm interested to see what they can do with the action, because the action in this film is supposed to be the pinnacle of action films. It's not just supposed to be good. If it was good, then it would just be an okay movie. But if it's the pinnacle, hopefully we'll have a great time with this. This one does release later this year. So are you excited to see John Wick's A Ballerina story? Or are you just kind of meh over all the discussion over this one? Let me know. Another movie that we gotta be talking about is actually The Materialist. This movie features Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal, and it really follows just a matchmaker who ends up falling in love in a love triangle. And so, the plot's interesting enough. It's not my cup of tea. It's not what I would go to the movies to see, but that is happening, and it's released on June 13th, 2025 of this year. The trailer is out if you're interested in that one. However, it's just not my cup of tea. They do have Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal, two favorite people in Hollywood right now, but nothing too crazy. So, The Materialists. Are you excited for it? Pixar's newest film called Elio also got a trailer this week, and this one basically follows a little boy who does not fit in on Earth, and so he wants to fit in somewhere, and he thinks that the only place to do that is actually going to outer space and with a bunch of aliens. Sounds like a super sweet and somber story. Sounds really sad. However, the trailer that they released didn't do much for me. I thought it kind of fell flat in most things. It didn't make me want to go like, man, I really want to go see this one, and the trailer itself was meh. I will be seated for the film. However, again, trailer didn't work for me, and I felt like it didn't tug at the heartstrings like I wanted it to. That's the way I'd phrase that. But there are some good aspects to this film that I would love to see. I think with the past Pixar trailers that we've been getting for the past couple movies, they haven't been great, but then you go in to see the films, and the films themselves are good. Like, Elementals was one of those films that just did not get a lot of people to go see it straight off the rip. I actually saw it on opening day, and so I was actually one of the people that was like, this one was solid, and no one's talking about it. And then people started to go see it after it released on Disney Plus and whatnot in theaters. But the movie itself was good. The trailers just aren't doing any justice. So I feel like maybe this one, the movie itself is good. However, Pixar just doesn't know how to truly market their films. But we'll hopefully see. I am interested to see this one. It just didn't make me go, man, I really want to see this one. It kind of was there. Another movie that we did get a trailer for this week is actually called Together. Now, we are talking about the trailer. However, I'm not going to give any spoilers on what actually happens in the trailer, just because I was told that if you watch the trailers, it gives away some of the story, and you're supposed to go into this blind. Now, this did premiere at South by South this past couple weekends ago, and it got really good reviews. This is supposed to be a body horror film, and it stars Alison Brie as well as Dave Franco, so it has good cast. Apparently, what ends up happening is that these two humans actually just start being combined into one. That's all I know. They're all going to combine into one person together. Yeah. So that's it. That movie comes out later this year. So put that on your radar, a movie called Together. I haven't seen it, but I've heard a lot of good things coming from South by South. So if that's something you're interested in, you can watch the trailer. I was just told to recommend not to watch it. So there you go. Are you going to add this to your watch list now? Another new trailer that we did get for this week was actually for a film called Drop. Now, this movie has had 2 trailers released so far. And the first one was very spoilery in my opinion, and it is one of those trailers that you just kind of watch and you're like, well, I've seen the whole film now. And I'm not going to recommend watching the second one. I haven't seen it, but I would just recommend not to watch the second trailer as well, unfortunately. If you want to see the whole story in the first place, just go watch the first trailer. But this movie, it does follow a woman who goes on a dinner date, and she starts getting airdropped some death threats as well as tasks to do, and if she does them, then her kids will be set free. It sounds super interesting. It's a whodunit. I'm all for it. It is from Blumhouse as well, and so I'm excited for it. However, I was mad that I watched the first trailer. So if you're interested in this one, don't watch the trailer. Just show up to the theaters, and we'll have a good time there. It doesn't give away like who the killer actually is, but for the most part, you can kind of guess based off the trailers. So again, don't watch the trailer, but there was a second trailer for it this week if you want to watch it. So I would recommend not to though. Andor Season 2 also got a trailer this week. I am not going to watch this one either, just because I want to watch the actual show and see how it actually plays out. I'm already bought in, so why would I waste my time on another trailer? I don't know. But if you are a big Star Wars fan, let me know if this trailer actually did exceed your expectations. Are you excited to see Andor Season 2? Because I can't wait to talk about it. The final trailer I want to talk about today is actually for Final Destination Bloodlines. We got the trailer as I was filming this video, and I will say I am completely bought in. The story itself follows a family member who their grandma survived death long ago, and so the whole family is not supposed to exist. So one of them gets axed off one after the other, and it keeps going and going and going. I love the concept. I'm completely bought in. What were your thoughts on the trailer itself? And I will say, Tony Todd's final appearance, which will be really sad to watch. So let me know what your thoughts on the trailer were as a whole though. All right, so that was all the trailers that we really had for the week. Now we're going to get into some smaller announcements that I just want to give you guys, just in case you guys are interested in any of these projects. All right, so we got some interesting new movies announced for the week. The first one we got is actually called The Last Resort, and this one follows Daisy Ridley as well as Alden Ehrenreich, who basically played Han Solo in the Solo movie. This movie is a rom-com, and it basically follows Daisy Ridley's character trying to set up a resort, and Aldridge is basically just the pilot flying her around to all these different resorts in Thailand. It's something interesting. There is no release date for this one, and it's not my cup of tea, but for those of you that are interested, what are your thoughts on this new project? For the fans of the Goofy movie, we are getting a documentary on April 7th this year titled Not Just a Goof. And honestly, I'm not a documentary guy, but if you guys do love the Goofy movie, there is a documentary on Disney Plus coming out on April 7th. So there you go for that one. All right, so if you like Stephen King's books, we are getting a new adaptation of one of his classic books, and this one is Cujo. This one's supposed to be in talks for Netflix, and for those of you who don't know, Cujo is basically a dog that gets bitten by a vampire and then goes on a killing spree. So yeah, very charming, heartwarming story. I can't wait to see this one. Honestly, no, the concept itself is pretty dumb. They've had these movies in the past and they just never worked. However, this one is actually interesting to me because we actually have the director Darren Aronofsky, who did Brendan Fraser's The Whale. He also did Natalie Portman's The Black Swan, and then Jennifer Lawrence's Mother. I haven't seen the past two, but I did see The Whale, and so there's a lot of good talent on this film if they actually go ahead with this director. I'm more intrigued on why the director even wants to do this story in the first place. So maybe this one, maybe they have something good on their hands for the first time. I don't know. Stephen King adaptations don't usually work the best. The last good one I remember is actually the It films. So yeah, Stephen King's new adaptations. Are you excited for a Cujo film? A film where a dog is hunting down people and eating them. Yeah. But if scary films are not your thing, we also got confirmation that Encanto 2 is actually at least being worked on behind the scenes. It is not being greenlit yet, meaning they aren't going ahead with it just yet. But the actor that played Bruno said that they're trying to figure out the story for the film and just trying to figure out all of the main pieces. I thought Encanto was fine. I don't know what they would do with the sequel, but that's why I am not writing this and I'm just doing the movie news for it. So Encanto 2 may be happening. What are your thoughts on this new announcement? Another film that was announced this past week was actually Meet the Parents 4. This movie stars Ben Stiller and Robert De Niro just trying to navigate family and trying to get closer to each other. I've enjoyed the first three, and they actually are bringing essentially the whole team back to do this fourth one, except for the director. The writer from the first three films is coming back to write and now to direct, and his name is John Hamburg. So we'll see. This will be super interesting to see if he can actually pull it off and make a worthy sequel. I think he can, but let me know if you've seen any of those films as well. There is another new film that is currently being worked on. This one is a comedy, and this one actually stars Will Ferrell, Zac Efron, Jimmy Tatro, and Regina Hall. This film is untitled, so we don't have really much to go off of based off of the title alone. However, we do have somewhat of a synopsis, so here we go. And it actually follows a young convict played by Zac Efron who takes a reality TV show courtroom hostage, blaming the judge played by Will Ferrell for a past ruling that the convict feels ruined his life. To me, this doesn't sound like a comedy. It sounds more like a drama, but if they can make a comedy out of this film, so be it. I'm not going to argue. I am kind of nervous on just this happening, but it is a unique project. It's never been done before, so we'll see how it goes. The last film that was actually announced this week was actually one from David Leitch himself. He's actually making a bank heist film starring Nicholas Hoult himself. So that'll be interesting. Again, this was just announced, so there's no official date or any actual premise of the movie. It's just a bank heist film. That's all we really know. So if you're a David Leitch fan, there is that news for you. Are you excited to see him do a bank heist film? All right, so those were just films that were announced this past week that we had no idea that was even being worked on. So now we're going to be talking about films that actually have been announced and actually have more smaller details with them. So let's get into some details about movies as well as shows as well. The first one that we're going to be talking about today is actually Mortal Kombat 2. Now, if you remember last week, I showed you this image with Johnny Cage. This was his first look, and so a lot of people were actually really stoked and really happy to see this first look image. However, there has been more images that released while I made that video, and so I actually didn't do my job correctly, apparently. Here are some more other images that were actually released while the other Johnny Cage image was released last week. I apologize for not seeing these until now, but these are the images. The only notable thing that I would really say about this is that if you guys remember watching the first film, that there was a character named Cole. He was basically the intro to this whole world of Mortal Kombat, and he was the character that we followed in the first film. However, if you look at all these images that we're seeing, he's not in any of those images, which is very concerning for the story, I feel like. Now, I don't know much about Mortal Kombat. I will go on record and say that I'm not a huge fan of Mortal Kombat. I enjoyed the first film for what it was, but I haven't rewatched it since either. But it looks like they might be killing off this Cole character and just making, from what I hear, Johnny Cage the actual main character of the film. So that'll be different. Let me know in your thoughts, though. If you're a Mortal Kombat fan, are you a fan that they may be killing off the main character that we've actually followed this whole time? Or do you think we should have just kept him around and just had him a part of the story instead? Let me know in the comments below. So if you're a huge fan of the Godzilla x Kong universe, you would know that there is a show in the universe from Apple TV Plus called Monarch. The first full season is out, so you can go ahead and watch it right now. And if you've seen the first season, you know the whole ending. They end the season at the Skull Island. And so Skull Island is a big location in the films, and I'm actually excited to see season 2. And so we actually got this photo saying that they wrapped season 2. So I'm not a huge person that dives into the details of photos like these. I can pull Easter eggs like, oh, this is from this. So let me know if I'm missing anything big in this photo, but it just looks like it is a wrap photo. They didn't do anything special, but it does look like they are still on Skull Island as of this photo. So let me know in the comments below what you kind of see from this image itself. All right, so another show that we did get some first look images for was actually Daredevil Born Again Season 2. And as you can see, it looks like Matt Murdock right here is wearing his black Daredevil suit, which is something super cool. I didn't think we'd ever get to this point, and I think it looks good from the angles that we have it at. Obviously, it's not an HD quality photo, and it's very, very grainy and dark, so you really can't see any of the actual details, but just the figure of it itself looks solid to me. Obviously, my opinions might change as we get closer to the show, and we actually see it in a trailer, but until then, I'm all for it, and to see him in a new costume like this. So let me know in the comments below, are you a fan of the new Daredevil set leak photos of him in the black costume? Are you excited to see it, or would you like the regular red one back? The last first look photo that we actually got is for Tron Ares. Now, if you look at this photo right here, it looks like this is Greta Lee, and I don't know much about Tron itself. I've seen the films, but that's about it. And so if you guys are big Tron fans, let me know if there's something interesting going on in this photo. But to me, it's just a person standing there. So yeah, there's that if you're interested in that at all. All right, so we got a couple of big castings this past week with just information on who is being casted in projects. And right now it looks like Austin Abram is actually getting cast in a new Resident Evil reboot. Now, I don't know anything about Resident Evil. It doesn't even say what character he will be playing. But this guy is showing up everywhere, and like George Clooney's Wolf and even way more projects. So look him up if you guys would like. But it does look like we actually have our lead for the Resident Evil reboot movie. So there you go. There is that information if you're a Resident Evil fan. Sticking on the horror genre right now, we actually got casting updates for The Mummy, which is a Blumhouse produced film. This is not a reboot for the actual Brendan Fraser The Mummy. This is just its own thing, where they are using the mummy as the scary thing. But we did get confirmation that Jack Raynor as well as Aaliyah Costa is starring in this new film. We don't know much more about it except for that it is releasing next year on April 17th. Now, are you guys let down that this is not a Brendan Fraser The Mummy reboot, or are you excited that this is its own thing? We actually get a new horror mummy film. Let me know in the comments below. Alright, so getting into these smaller updates that we've been talking about, this one is actually an update on the Sergeant Rock film from the DCU studios. And honestly, we got some new casting information on the character of Sergeant Rock himself. It looks like Colin Farrell is in talks for the role, which put a lot of the internet on like angry mode apparently. A lot of people said he already plays the Penguin in the Batman universe, and so why can he play two different characters? Where I'm all for it, just because if you watch the Penguin, he looks unidentifiable to his actual self, and it shows that he can actually do dramatic roles like that, even looking like that. And so bring that dramatic acting to a war movie from DC Studios, I'm all for it. So honestly, I don't see why people are getting so heated over it. I think it works. I don't know why everyone has to make this a huge argument. But Colin Farrell as Sergeant Rock, let me know your thoughts on it, because I'm actually interested to see if you guys actually are for this or against this. I think he'll do a great job either way. And even if he doesn't do this, someone else will do it as well. So it's not confirmed yet, but I'm excited to see if he actually does do this or not. All right, since we just got done talking about the Penguin actor, let's go ahead and talk about The Batman Part 2. This is the Matt Reeves universe version of Batman, and it looks like right now that Warner Brothers Spain's account has actually said that it is now an untitled Batman film, meaning that it might be called something different than The Batman Part 2. That'll be super interesting in itself. I would love to hear your fan theories on what the actual title for the film itself is, as well as the villain. So if we had a villain like, let's say, Man-Bat, Batman versus Batman, the Man-Bat. I don't know. We'll see. But I'd love to hear your topics on, or your thoughts on the title itself. And then we also got information on what this movie is actually going to be classified as. And the genre that they actually gave us was actually sci-fi, fantasy, action, and adventure. Which I did some looking into it. That is kind of what the first one was listed as. So I don't think it'll be anything drastic change. But does that actually pique your interest that the genres are those 4 different things? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, the last piece of DCU news that we actually have for the day is that James Gunn's Superman movie is currently at a 2-hour and 20-minute film first draft. And so this can definitely, or will most definitely, change as we get closer to the date. Usually the actual runtime of a film is not officially released until 2 weeks before the movie is released. So we got a while. But would you be interested in watching a 2.5-hour Superman film, essentially? Because that's what this would be. Since we're talking about Warner Brothers' past projects, we might as well talk about a Coyote vs. Acme film, which is basically a live-action / animated crossover with Looney Tunes characters in a court case. Now, this movie got very positive reviews, and then it got shelved as a tax write-off. And so we never thought this movie would see a light of day. Warner Brothers tried to sell it for the first time. However, they were asking way too much for it. And so it just was shelved and it was never heard of until this past week, where it looks like Ketchup Studios, who just released one of the other shelved Warner Brothers Looney Tunes movies, it looks like they're going to buy it and we'll actually see the film itself. And so a lot of passionate Looney Tunes fans were very angry, but now they're excited because we get to see a shelved Looney Tunes film. And this one actually features John Cena. That's the only thing I really remember from this film. And then it's a court case. And so we'll see what really happens here. A lot of people are excited about this potentially happening. However, it is not confirmed yet. So if it does happen, there you go. But I did not lie to you if it does not happen. No, sir. Did not do that. Another animated project that disappeared for a while, but now it looks like it's still getting released, is actually the animated Cat in the Hat film. This one is again from Warner Brothers, and it is Bill Hader starring as the Cat in the Hat. The film itself will release on February 27th of 2026, so we got a while, but if you're interested in seeing a new animated Doctor Who's movie, there's that. I'm surprised Illumination actually isn't doing this one, but I think what they said is after the Grinch flopped, They wanted to sell it to a different studio, and so this is what we're getting. So let me know if you're excited for a Cat in the Hat animated film. If you're looking forward to the Street Fighter film, we actually got a writer attached to it this past month, and a new interesting update is actually that it is not happening. Not gonna happen. It was delayed indefinitely, so the people that were looking forward to it, it looks like this movie is cursed, unfortunately. So, are you disappointed about Street Fighter, the film, not coming out? I don't know much about Street Fighter, but for you Street Fighter fans, I feel bad. So, slowly switching over to TV news. If you guys watch the show Solar Opposites, it did get confirmed that the 6th season that it will be releasing in the fall will actually be its final season. And so there is that short, quick news for you. Are you disappointed, or does it actually lead into this? Because I've never seen the show, but there's just that news for you. If you like The Big Bang Theory, though, we are getting another spinoff. I believe this is like spinoff number 4 now, and it's actually titled Stuart Fails to Save the Universe. This is just one of those other sitcoms that I just never got into. However, it does look like these people are returning for the cast. Kevin Sussman, Brian Posen, John Rose Bowie, and Lauren Lapkus. So they're set to reprise their roles. Are you excited for that? Another one of those shows I never really cared for, The American Dad. This is one of those Family Guy spinoff shows, and it looks like you are getting some new episodes for the first time ever in like over a decade. And so if you watch The American Dad show, new episodes will be coming out on Fox. It doesn't have a release date, but it does say that they are working on it. So there you go. The next TV show I wanted to talk about real quick is The House of Dragon Season 3. They have started filming, and it will be having 8 episodes in this season. So there you go. There is your Game of Thrones news for the week. Invincible is a show where I have read and watched everything that they've done with it. I'm super excited to see what they continue to do with the show. And so there's been a lot of information just with this show in general. If you look at this Instagram post, it looks like the voice casting has finished their voice work for season 4, which is really good. They have casted Thrag, which is another good thing. We are getting an original storyline that was not from the books. And then Invincible was cast, which is clearly a joke. But the thing that I really want to focus on is the new storyline. So when I picked up all these books, season 1 just finished, and I was super excited to see what the whole universe was supposed to be. So I picked up all of the books, I read them all, and season 2 released, and I was disappointed. Now, this isn't to say season 2 is bad. I enjoyed season 2. The release schedule was very wonky, as we all know. However, when it came to the whole show, I didn't have the same surprise as everyone else has. So like, when we bring up characters such as Oliver, everyone's like, oh, I can't wait to see what they do with him. And then I'm here like, I already know what they're going to do with him. And then it's like, oh, I can't wait to see how this plays out. Where I'm like, I already know how that's gonna play out. And so there's a bunch of these things from the books themselves. Like the show follows the books very closely. And so I still enjoy the show. I think it's peak animation. Like I'm having so much fun with it. However, I feel like I'm not having the same enjoyment as most people who haven't read the books. So I would recommend, if you have not read the books, to not read the books actually, and just watch the show, because that's where I got my most enjoyment from the show, is when I didn't read the books and I didn't know what was going to happen. Now, I am super excited that they're bringing in a new storyline, because for me, I'm interested to see what this new storyline is and to see how that can fit inside the books and everything else. So that is something that I'm super excited for, and I can't wait to see what they do with the Dark Blood storyline, where they basically said that Mark is going to fight Hell. So, yeah. A new show that I also wanted to talk about that was announced this past week was actually a new live-action Power Rangers show. Now, when people say Power Rangers, they're basically like, meh. We didn't get the Reboot movie, which a lot of people say is underrated. I'd be one of those. But we are getting a new show, and it looks like this is going to be a new continuity using movie-level budget, which I think this is the best way to go for the franchise. However, it'll be on Disney Plus. Now, when people say Disney Plus, they roll their eyes, and I would typically agree with them. And honestly, the people doing this show as well, I don't have a lot of faith in. These are the people that do the Percy Jackson show. They're actually a part of making this Power Rangers show possible. And so I like the Percy Jackson show. I feel like it's going to be a little bit more kiddie than what it should be. I feel like it should be more to the Mando side of things, where they actually make it for actual like teenagers instead of little kids. We'll see though. It's happening. So are you excited for a new Power Rangers reboot though? Since we're talking about Disney Plus, the next Disney Plus show I want to talk about is actually a new MCU show called Champions. Now, Champions is basically the Young Avengers. However, this name is being used, so I think that they can actually do more with the show itself instead of just calling them Young Avengers. Eventually, they'll age out of that, so maybe this is setting up for multiple seasons. Champions is a team in the comic books, and that consists of different heroes, but Miss Marvel is a part of that team, and like Alexander Nova. So there's a bunch of characters that are in the MCU currently that have been in Champions before. And so they're, I think, just using the Champions title for the show. And then we actually got confirmation that the writer of the show is going to be Rachna Frunchbaum. And what she actually has done in the past is the Apple TV show called Shrinking. Now, I haven't seen the show myself, but I've heard really good things about it. And the actual like trailers that I've seen from the show and the actual snippets from the show I've seen from Shrinking, I like the vibe that they would do for this show as well. So I'm excited to see what they can kind of do with this Champions show as a whole. Are you excited to see a Champions project or a Young Avengers project? Because I've heard a lot of people on the internet are just not having it, but I don't mind. I like the idea of it. So that might be a hot take, but yeah. All right, so one of the topics in the intro was actually God of War. And just to give you kind of a frame and reference from my experience with the games, I played the last 2 games that released, but I don't know any of the like original lore that they've all done in the past games. So I know some, but not a lot. So we did get confirmation that this show is greenlit for 2 seasons, which is a very good sign at Amazon Prime, which is even better because I feel like Prime has really, really good TV shows. And I'm always super excited to see what they do. However, the bad news comes when we talk about the showrunner, because apparently the showrunner of this whole show has never played one of these games, which is a very bad immediate sign on where this show could go. And I am quite nervous on that. However, I try to do some little more digging into it. I haven't seen if they like watch the cutscenes or something, but I feel like you get a different experience when you actually play the games. So I'm interested to see on if this show is actually going to be any good. Hopefully he did his research and won't make all these fans mad, but I don't know. What's your thoughts on the God of War franchise as well as this new show and update? All right, moving on to the next topic, we're going to be talking about Avengers Doomsday, and it looks like in an interview this week, the Russo brothers said that Tony Stark and Doctor Doom will be connected in some way, which seems to me like they are going to be a variant of each other, which will be annoying. However, they did come out and say that they can't explain that how this part is a part of the story, but there is no one else in the world that can play the character like Robert Downey Jr. is about to play him. So whatever your take on that is, you're probably right. I don't know. I just hope that they don't like say this Iron Man is a variant and he died, and so Robert Downey Jr. is now going to be Doctor Doom because he doesn't want to die and he wants everlasting power to take over the universe so that he can control himself from not dying. Kind of cliche. Hope they don't go that route, but you know, they probably will. What's your theories on this about the Robert Downey Jr. and how they're going to be connected in the comments below? All right, so we did get casting information last week for Spider-Man 4 saying that Sadie Sink has joined the cast, and we were all speculating on what character she would be playing. Now, we did get some more information from the scooper Daniel RPK, who has a lot of reliable sources in the industry, so I take everything with what he says basically as fact until proven otherwise. And so here we go. This is what they said about Sadie Sink's character and what she's playing. It says she's playing a sharp, free-spirited woman who is strong-willed, intelligent, and not easily intimidated, and that they have a mysterious past. Now, if you take all that information, you think, what character has red hair and has all those qualities? Mary Jane Watson. So I'm hoping they don't go that route. But if anyone else is very well versed in Spider-Man lore and like deep diving of characters, let me know if that's anyone else. I could see how it's going to be that Gwen Stacy, because I've heard the theory that everyone that's played Gwen Stacy so far is actually a true redhead underneath. So, like, maybe she's a Gwen Stacy, but, like, I'm hoping they don't put her as MJ. Give us a new character because, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Zendaya's MJ in the first place. But, like, if we're getting a new one, there's no point of this. So let's get a new character in here and not just another MJ, please. But we did get some more casting information as well. It looks like they're looking for, right now, this is from the same scooper, they're looking for a 20-year-old character that acts like a resourceful young man. And then they're also looking for a 30 to 50s male who described as a no-nonsense authority figure who sees the world black and white, loyal, determined, and willing to cross lines to maintain order. And to me, this sounds like Harry Osborn and Norman Osborn. So let me know your thoughts about those just two casting informations as well. We also got another casting information update saying that the villain of the movie is set to be a female, but we don't know who exactly it will be. And it's said to be a 30s to 50s female. I couldn't guess who this was going to be. Some people are speculating an older black cat, which would be weird. I could see like a daughter of Mysterio thing going on, but I don't know. We'll see. Let me know your comment or your thoughts in the comments below. All right, so closing out this movie news segment, we got a couple of horror news, and this is just big clumps of it. So I'm just gonna kind of run through this really quickly just so I don't have to waste all of your time. It does look like Glenn Powell will star and produce a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. As of this time right now, it is not confirmed, but he is looking to do it. They've confirmed that he actually is in talks. It's just not confirmed whether he actually will do it or not. And then it also looks like JT Molnar, who actually directed Strange Darling, is also in talks to kind of direct this film, which would be a huge win for this franchise as a whole. I'm super excited if this actually goes to pass. I'm not a huge fan of the Texas Chainsaw movies. I know they're iconic because they've created the slasher genre as it is. I respect it for it. I never got them though. I never cared. So I'm super excited to see if Glenn Powell will actually do a horror film. That would be super cool to me. What are your thoughts on the Texas Chainsaw franchise as a whole? And are you excited for a potential new movie with A24 or Lionsgate doing it, which would be another cool piece of information? Some other horror news we got this past week was actually Linda Cardellini has officially joined the cast of the Crystal Lakes TV show, which is basically the Friday the 13th TV show. It does look like she is playing Pamela Voorhees, and this is what they say about the show. It looks like Linda Cardellini, her character is a beloved mother who had given up a singing career to raise a special needs child, and it takes a dark turn when she loses her son. Love that premise. I think that's something new and interesting that we haven't seen in the Friday the 13th world. And honestly, if they're not going to be able to do the Jason route, I think this will go well enough. I'm just hoping that they don't take forever to get to that point where they're just trying to just build out these characters. I hope that there is just some carnage right in the front, but you know, it could happen, could not. It just could be one of those like slow playing shows, and I hope that this one is just not that way, because the whole franchise is not very slow playing. It's just kill after kill. But I'm hoping that this is just gonna be fast paced, but I don't think it will be based off of the description of this. All right, so our last topic for today is actually Saw 11. If you remember last week, we got it confirmed that Saw 11 was actually canceled. However, we were on LinkedIn this past week, and Billy the Puppet actually said this in his statement when we talked about Saw 11 being canceled. He said, "I've seen the rumors. They say it's game over. However, you should know me better than that. The game is never over," which leads us to believe that Saw 11 is actually still in works, even though they said that it's actually been put on hold. You never know. It may just be another reboot. I don't know. But we did get confirmation that The Strangers Part 2 is taking over the Saw 11 original release date, which is a huge downgrade in my opinion. And then we also got more information saying that the Saw writer has an idea of what he wanted this movie to be. And so this is what he said he kind of wanted Saw 11 to be. The story taps into the same themes of Saw 6, where you're a citizen, you feel angry and frustrated with something, you feel like you can't do anything, and John Kramer is the one to do it. So, Saw 11 still may be alive even though it was confirmed dead last week. Are you happy to see that Saw 11 could potentially still happen? Alright, so that was all of the movie news this past week. I apologize if this video was super long. There is a lot of news coming out. And then, as I said at the very beginning, there is way more news coming out next week because next week is CinemaCon, and that means we're getting trailers, movie news dropped every single day. So look forward to that on my channel. I'll be covering all of that eventually at some point. Hopefully it's not a 3-hour-long video. Hopefully it'll be spread out if that's the case, but you never know. Make sure to hit that subscribe button as well as leave a like on this video. This took a lot of time for me to do and put together, so make sure you just show the love in the comments below. Please also go ahead and join me in the conversation down below. I want to hold all these conversations with you about all these different topics, so make sure you just kind of mention one of your favorite projects we talked about today or something else. Without further ado though, you guys have a great week, and I hope you guys stay safe out there.